Hey man, just sitting up here, online and looking at some things. And what crossed my timeline was the mass murder that took place in the Bay Area yesterday, where several people were shot by a mass shooter, and one of them, I think two of them were children, and one of the children, I think, um, it was reported that he passed away from his injuries. A 6-year-old boy. There was no thinking about it. This took place, and I want to send condolences to his family. And it's absolutely devastating that this is continuing to take place in our country. And um, if I'm gonna have a voice, I should at least express how I feel about things as they occur. And I think that's just responsible. Even though I'm a sports guy and I talk about life, I think there is some responsibility to each and every soul that has a voice to at least express some concern for humanity. And this is my way of doing that here. And so I just pose a question, and it's not a unique question. I'm not giving you any hot takes here. This is something that a lot of us have asked for a very long time. And so this is what I have to say. Why does a private citizen need an AK 47 or a war weapon? I'm not against having guns in your home if you want to protect yourself. There's a wide world out there and a trillion scenarios that human beings face every day. And I've been on record saying that I'd rather be caught with it than without it. So I can't be talking out two sides of my mouth saying that we got to get all the guns off the streets, because quite frankly, there's still entities and scenarios out there to where if you don't have a gun, um, you could be left vulnerable in a situation that otherwise could be prevented with one. So I don't want to be that guy that just says get all the guns off the earth. If we can eliminate all of them at once, that would be something I'd be open to doing. But as far as knowing that guns exist and then not allowing private citizens to have them, I don't feel that way. But I do think that everyone should be aware of how to use one and aware of how serious it is. And most importantly, there should be very, very strict laws as to how people handle their guns, where they keep them, all that good stuff. It needs to be that definitely needs to be taken. That needs to be taken very seriously. So that's my stance on that. But just as far as like automatic weapons and some of these big boy guns and some of these street sweepers and all this stuff, look, I understand that there are people out here in the world that are living a life that I can't relate to. They have violent lives, they have violent communities and circumstances. You're in gangs or whatever in my community. That's a real thing. So people feel like they need big guns to protect themselves from mass threats. Okay, I get that. But an average citizen, you ain't living that life. You're not out here and you're not living that way. Why would there be access to a gun like that? In other words, I don't think we should be selling AK-47s like candy. I don't think it should be accessible to everyone. I think if somebody out in the streets has one, it should be because they got it from some illegal black market way. It should not have come from something that the U.S. government or that us as a society can nod our head and say that's okay. It shouldn't be okay. You know what I mean? The fact of the matter is, the streets gonna get what they need. The streets will get what they need. Whatever it is that needs to be out there, unfortunately, it's going to be out there regardless of what you do. It's just is this how the world spins. But as it pertains to private citizens having AK-47s, regular Joe Blows like myself and Michael over in DC somewhere, you know what I mean? Just a random guy. He should not be able to go to his local Walmart and snatch up an AK-47 assault rifle. That's not something he needs to protect his family. That's not something that he needs to keep himself safe. That's something he can use to be aggressive in life. That's an aggressive weapon. You're not playing defense with something like that. You out to take more than one life in one flurry if you have a gun like that. It's not a hunting rifle. I don't assume to understand this world any better than what my 35 years has allowed me to. I haven't done a lot of traveling. I just don't know a whole lot in this world yet. I hope to learn. Hopefully, God will give me the time to do so. But from where I'm sitting, in my limited perspective, in my limited understanding, there's no reason for you to have an AK-47 if you're not in a lifestyle that requires you to be afraid of a lot of freaking people at once, or be aggressive because that's just how your life is and you headed for whatever it is that is coming with that. That's not an average person's gun, man. That's meant for war, real life war, where trained soldiers are fighting for something that's beyond me. That's not a average man's weapon. I'm sorry. And some of these other weapons as well, they're not average weapons. The private citizen don't need no more than a 9 or something, like something handheld. In my opinion, if you gotta have a weapon, it shouldn't be no bigger than that. I mean, I just don't understand. We've had so many mass shootings where private citizens have been able to snatch up these big boy rifles and just spray at whatever. And sure, damage can be done with handhelds. Don't get me wrong. This is not a solution for the problem. But when you're talking about having easier access to do more and more damage, it's different. It's really, really different when you have a nut job with a freaking AK or two and he's just going around spraying stuff up than it is to apprehend or take down somebody who's holding handheld weapons. It's a different way to approach it. It's a different level of damage that they can do depending on who's doing it. And most of the time, the people that are doing these mass shootings are not trained soldiers. They're usually just citizens, real regular dudes like myself. And it's scary out here that we still sell these things like that we still allow these things to be on the market like that. It's scary. It makes you wonder if you should raise a child at all. It makes you wonder if you're safe when you go to certain places. It makes you not really want to go to different events sometimes. If you're like me, it's like, well, you have to think twice. Do I want to go to this big event? Because it's going to be a situation where people will have an opportunity to do whatever. Maybe this will be the time somebody does something that takes me out of here. It's like those type of things. I just feel like we have a better hold on it if we stop letting the political side of things dictate what we do as it pertains to our safety and the safety of our nation. A lot of times when we're dealing with politics and all of that, it can get tricky. You know what I mean? One hand washes the other, this and that. Somebody's trying to let something else slide so they can have leverage over here for something that needs to be bigger. It's bigger picture looking, and a lot of little things that aren't really little get overlooked by people who are in positions to do something about it because of that system of political ways of doing things. And for me, it's just that's what this feels like. I mean, there's no real reason for why a person would allow a regular person to have AK-47. Why a country would allow their citizens to have access to a weapon like that, when you don't even have cross-state parity, cross-country parity on what the gun laws actually are from state to state. I shouldn't be able to purchase a weapon in such and such land where it's cool and then take it somewhere where it's not and do damage like that. If you don't have countrywide parity as it pertains to your laws, then there has to be stricter means of getting weapons in that regard. There have to be stricter laws against it. You can't it cannot go down like this. So that's my opinion. I like I said, I'm not the anti-gun guy. I'm just not. Growing up in LA, I have known people who've lost their lives to gun violence. I have been in situations where guns have been let off in my direction. It's happened. Fortunately enough, I've never been hit. Fortunately enough, I've never shot at anyone. But I can tell you this. There's been many a situation where I've heard of or been told of, or what have you, secondhand knowledge, where people, had they had a weapon, maybe their lives would have been spared, or maybe they would have had an opportunity to defend themselves. Now, a lot of different things can happen when you have a gun, especially if you don't know what you're doing. A lot of accidents take place, and you got to be responsible with your weapon, which is why I think it should be something that is taught. If we're going to have weapons in our society, they have to be knowledge out there for children and young people to know what it is they're dealing with, what it is that can happen if they play with guns, and how best to take one apart and put one together if necessary. I mean, I just think that's basic knowledge. I really do. It should be basic knowledge. And so, yeah, that's my opinion. It's not to be played with. Guns are not to be played with. Please, if you hear me and out there and you're thinking about purchasing a weapon like that, be responsible in your mind. Understand what it is that you're doing. You're not buying a protection weapon. You're buying an aggression weapon. It's that simple. You know, if you have intentions of buying a weapon like that, do not let the idea of that weapon getting out of your hands be lost upon you. Meaning, you purchase a weapon like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be the last person that touches it. So think about that when you put your money on something like that. And that's what I have to say. Be safe. I think a lot of people out here will tell you to be fearful. I expressed even in this video how I've had fearful thoughts. But I think the understanding that I've also have in this life, and there's a balance to that, is we're all going to have to face our mortality at some point. Okay? There is no way to escape that. So if you walk around fearful, the clock is still ticking. You know what I mean? Try to let some of that fear go so you can enjoy some of these big events, so that you can enjoy some of the things in life that otherwise may be a threat. Could pose a threat if things go wrong. You don't want to live your life preparing for things to go wrong all of the time, and then you find yourself never able to really enjoy or fully embrace something that could otherwise be fun. If it's your time to go, you will leave. But if it's not your time to go, then being fearful is just wasting the betterment of your moment. So a lot of people, I watch on YouTube and I watch on TV, and they push fear without giving people the balance of, well, you'll psych out your mind. You'll do damage to your own mentality, your own psyche. When we talk about our mental health, we do damage to our own mental health by hanging on to fear a little too tight without giving a balance to the other aspect of it, to the other side of it. Yeah, there's real threats out there, but there's also real threats that we do to our own mind. There's real damage that we do to our own mind by adhering to these threats and over-absorbing the fear of it all. So be balanced out there. Know that there's dangers, but there's also a way to live without being fearful. And we all deserve that as well. So anyway, I've gotten a little off topic, but just all in all, I think that's what ultimately brings people to want to purchase such big weapons: fear. You know what I mean? Just to tie it all in. If we weren't so damn fearful and weren't so certain of the dangers around us, maybe we wouldn't think we need to have such an aggressive weapon to protect ourselves. Maybe we wouldn't feel like there's a way to protect ourselves with such an aggressive weapon. Just because you're holding one doesn't mean you can't be shot yourself. So it's like, just balance. That's what I ask for all of us. Take a breath, breathe a little bit. As a nation, we need to breathe a little bit. And, just see that there's a yin and yang to everything. And if we meet it, both sides of a situation, maybe we won't overwhelm ourselves, and maybe we won't leave ourselves vulnerable in that same breath. So balance is what we need, people, and ultimately we need to make a decision on what we're doing with our weapons as a whole. If we're going to embrace guns, we need to do it the right way going forward. Our next generation needs to understand what they're doing with them, and they need to know how to use them. If we're going to condemn guns altogether, then we need to get them the hell off the streets altogether. And that's going to require some people to fall on the sword politically. So who knows what the future holds, but if enough goes down, maybe we'll see some slow change as the world tends to bring us. So anyway, that's what I have to say in the dark. Hope everybody enjoyed this little rant that I've had here, and I don't assume to know too much. So a lot of people are going to listen to me and say, God, this guy's an idiot. But at the end of the day, my heart's in the right place, and I hope that all of you understand that. I just want to see us live, and I want to see us live in our minds healthy, not just survive. There's a difference. So find that balance in your life, people. All right, take care. Rest in peace to those who lost their lives in that horrible event. And that's that. BDF.